Srimad Bhagavatam by Kamala Subramaniam, Chapter 4, The Search After Truth. The sages went away, and I was left alone. I had a mother, as I told you before. She was a servant, she was ignorant, and she was immensely attached to me, her only child. I knew how foolish it was to love like that, but it was not possible for me to leave her and go away. I was with her in the ashrama where she worked and waited for the grace of God. The world, my friend, is under the sway of God, and his ways are inscrutable. We see what is happening, but we lose sight of the fact that something else is responsible for the happenings in this world. The actions of man are like those of a puppet. It seems to move on its own accord, but it is not so. It has to move the way the strings are pulled, and the strings are pulled by an expert who is not seen by us. One night my mother was proceeding towards the cowshed to milk the cow belonging to the ashrama. It was twilight, and even that little light was fading rapidly. My poor mother was bitten by a snake which was lying in her path, and she died on the spot. Strangely enough, I did not feel too unhappy, since I knew that this was the Lord's doing, that he had so engineered it that I would get my freedom. My mother was a banda, and I was now free of it. I left the ashrama and proceeded towards the north. I traveled through many countries and many forests. I crossed rivers which were beautiful. The forests were full of flowering trees which had their branches broken by wild elephants. I saw mountains gleaming golden and silvery because of the minerals which were hidden in the rocks. I saw lakes which were noisy with the sounds of bees, which were murmuring all the while. I passed fearful bamboo forests, and to my ears came the noise made by the roaring of wild animals, the howling of jackals, and the mournful hooting of the night owls. I was exhausted, and my limbs were aching. My throat was parched, and I was hungry. I went towards the river, washed myself, and drank my fill of the sweet water. I then sat under an immense peepal tree. I assumed the posture which the sages had taught me, and concentrated my mind on the form of the Lord which they had described. I sat there absorbed in meditation. In my mind's eye, I saw the form of Narayana slowly taking shape. I saw him, and my body trembled in ecstasy. Tears flowed incessantly, and my entire being was flooded with joy. A moment of this ecstasy, and the form of Narayana vanished. It was there no more. I was plunged in misery, and I was roused from my meditation. I tried again to sit and meditate, and I could not concentrate. The form would not come back to my mind. I was like one demented. All on a sudden, I heard a voice speak to me. He was calling me, and his voice was loving, comforting, beautiful. He said, "My child, you will not be able to see me again in this birth of yours. Unless and until you shed this form, born of desires, you cannot reach me. This momentary vision of my form was to assure you that you will reach me in the end. Having seen me once, no one can think of anything else, or have any other desire in his mind. Even at this young age, you have, by your association with sages, learnt to love me and only me. Love for me will banish all other forms of love in your mind. Shed this body of yours and come to me. You will always be by my side. This love you have for me will not wane even after the pralaya. You are dear to me." The divine voice was heard no more. Since then, I spent all my time singing the praises of Narayana and went from place to place. I had no desires, and I was content with my lot in life. I was waiting for the time when I would shed the human form which kept me in bondage, kept me prisoner. Days passed, years too, many of them. In course of time, death came to me. It was a streak of lightning, deceptively, like a garland of light. The body made up of the elements fell to the earth, and I traveled towards the ocean where Narayana was sleeping. I entered into Brahma along with his breath. After 4 yugas had passed, when Brahma began to create the world, I was born as his son, along with Marichi and the others. By the grace of the Lord, I travel all over the universe singing his glories. The Devas gave me this veena, by name Mahati, and with this, to accompany my songs, I go about spreading the lesson of love. When I sing, the form of Narayana comes to my mind at once, as though he has been summoned by me. I see him all the time, and I am always happy. Let me repeat what I said before. Karma Yoga, which you have taught in the Mahabharata, Jnana Yoga, which you have taught in the Upanishad, and the Karma Kanda you have described in the Vedas, not one of them will grant man so easily the peace and tranquility which Bhakti Yoga gives. So, dear friend, let your composition be the raft which will save men floundering in the ocean of pain, frustration, and despair. Narada went away from the presence of Vyasa. Long after he had gone, the drone of his veena could be heard, and the great poet sat for a while pondering on the words of Narada. Vyasa closed his eyes and went into a deep trance. He saw in his mind's eye the great events of the past. He saw Narayana resting on Ananta. He saw the beginnings of creation, the Virata Purusha, and the great lotus out of which was born Brahma. He saw the birth of the worlds, he saw the vibhuti of the Lord, and the happenings during the many kalpas. Vyasa then composed the great Bhagavata Purana. He taught this great poem to his son Sukha, and Sukha propagated it to the world of man.